What up, everyone? New episode of the SoleSavy Podcast. I'm excited about this one because anytime I can talk about Portland with people, my American home, my second home to Vancouver, BC, I love to do it. Ian Williams, how you doing, man?
What's going on? How you doing?
Good. Excited for this convo. I was just saying off podcast recording that I have questions for you, but we might as well just jam on the pod so everyone else can learn about Deadstock Coffee because I'm the last man to meet you at SoleSavy so far.
Yeah.
Tell the people a little bit about yourself from a high level, anything they should know before we dive into the conversation.
Yeah, my name is Ian Williams. I'm from Newport News, Virginia. That's 10 minutes away from where the greatest basketball player of all time, Allen Iverson, is from. It's from Hampton. Grew up, my brother and sister went to a rival school that he went to, so I grew up watching him play basketball and football. And then he played for the Sixers. My family's from Philly. And so, just like a massive Allen Iverson fan. I own Deadstock and Concourse Coffee, as you said. The whole idea around starting Deadstock, which I did about 7 years ago, was to be a place where people who love the sneaker industry, whether it be looking for jobs or whatever, could go and just hang out. And so that's how it started. That's what it stays as. Haven't really lost the desire for, to build community, which I'm very thankful for. And then we just opened Concourse, and Concourse is so Deadstock is sneakers and coffee. Concourse is basketball and coffee.
I didn't know this, and I don't know if this is part of the boring or the interesting from your end, but you went from janitor to designer at Nike. Walk me through that. That's an interesting journey.
My Nike career actually started. I always had this thought that I should just do the job that makes me happy. Mm-hmm. So before I even worked at Nike at all, I liked selling things. So I worked at Best Buy, and I did like cameras and like car audio. Knew nothing about either one, but I just like sales. I just like connecting people with stuff. I realized that like with all that, I was just buying shoes, and I wasn't making a ton of money, but that's all I kept doing was just buying shoes. And so I finally just was like, I should just work for a footwear company. Nike was here. And I'm pretty sure everybody who's probably going to be listening to this podcast also knows that the Nike employee store is here.
Yep.
And so I was able to land a job at the employee store, and I worked there for a few months, and I got let go after the holiday was over because I got into it with the manager on some dumb stuff. But then that showed me. I met up with a homie named Keith Kunis, who's one of the founders of Trailblazing. He worked at the store when I got there, and I was like, man, this shoe thing's kind of cool. And Keith was like, little fella, come get under this wing here. And just opened it up for me. And that was when I just understood that was where I wanted to be. Found a job as a janitor on campus at the Nike headquarters, which is around the corner from the employee store.
Yep.
I was a janitor for what I thought was going to be a couple months. Ended up taking about 3 years and just like weasel my way into a footwear position. During that time, I actually had a dunk that came out that released with SB.
Yeah.
That was inspired by my job as a janitor. So that's where the colorway and everything comes from.
Yeah, I remember that now. It's piecing together through my dad brain that I know of this story, but it's coming together for me now. Yeah. And I just use that as my portfolio, just like weasel my way into a job. And then, I had a couple different instances where I designed something, but my job was actually, I was a footwear developer. So that leads, how do you go from Nike to Deadstock Coffee, and why a coffee shop?
Once I got the desk job, I liked making product, but what I really loved was that there's this weird group of people who would wait in line all the time. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, you don't know each other and all that, but you know what size that person wears and you know what they like. Yeah. And, there was even some of it where like you might see your homie in line and maybe 3 shoes are coming out during that weekend. And you're like, okay, I'm getting the LeBrons and I know you want the KDs. So I'll get your size in the KD when I go in, just in case you can't get yours, or whatever. Or like, hey, I need another pair of blah, blah, blah to put on ice. Can you get them for me? Right. There's this group of people who kids, adults, people might show up drunk in line, at 3:00 in the morning, or, the kid and the parents might be there for the same thing. And so, I realized I loved the people part of sneakers and not so much the business side.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted a place to hang out and talk to my friends about shoes all day. And I understood that coffee shops are the place where people go and sit around and do a whole bunch of whatever all day. And so it had nothing to do with coffee. It was all about people. But then once I got into coffee, if you can't tell, I'm a competitive person. I then understood that I had to, like, the coffee industry was looking at me like I was a fool. And the sneaker industry was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what?
Challenge accepted.
Do it. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna do this my own way.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna recognize me,
I love it. Talk to me about that phrase, that slogan. I think I see it everywhere, and obviously on the Adidas collaboration that you did, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah. The original phrase was, or the original term for motto was to make the coffee snob and the sneaker nerd homies over a love of all things premium.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we like really premium shoes and they like really premium coffee. Same person, still a nerd. And honestly, like, for real, like, us sneaker people, we are the biggest nerds. Like, ask somebody about some materials from, on hey, fire red threes, go. And then somebody's gonna be like, oh,
the question,
2016 retro, 2018 retro, like, how many times, the ones that they released during the holiday, the ones that they released, and people will go off and you're like, tell me you're not a nerd, dog. For real. Tell me whatever you're talking about is way more important than whatever. It's not. Right. We're talking about some mesh and leather and whatever, foot coverings with some rubber on the bottom. And we just buy them over and over again. As I would talk to people about whatever was going on, they would be like, what? I don't get it. And I'm like, really? Like, coffee's really boring and coffee should be dope.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's how it got started. And it was like the almost like elevator pitch version of what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And people would be like, coffee shop, what? That doesn't make any, what? And I'm like, well, you'll see it, and it was like the easiest thing to glue somebody to.
How did you get an Adidas collaboration? I'm so curious about all of that.
It's a solid question. So this one was, some people who work at Adidas who are part of the community had brought it up to me multiple times. And it was like a 3-year process where we got pitched on one idea, didn't work out. We got pitched on another idea, didn't work out. Around, early COVID, they were trying to think of some stuff that could bring some energy. And fortunately, the project just kind of resurfaced. And my first idea was like the burlap. Like, I wanted to tell a story that if you are a coffee person, it makes so much sense to you. But if you're not, it doesn't mean anything. It just is a cool looking shoe. Yeah. And so, like, the first one that I came to the table with was like that burlap coffee story. So this is like coffee bags from Brazil are like green. They always have the product of Brazil with like the coffee plant on it. So like green and red. And then there's a bag inside that burlap bag called the Grain Pro. That's a light green color that keeps the coffee fresh. Yeah. So this is like the Grain Pro color. Yeah. The reason why this is translucent is because of the Grain Pro. But this was the first shoe. And then Tomas' idea was the wall outside of Deadstock. That is the two-tone, like white on gray. But then this is a logistics thing. They realized that the factory actually didn't have the outsoles for that shoe anymore. And so, and then like the rest of the category got mad because they were like, this is a shoe that we're going to be relaunching in X amount of time. So you guys can't even use the EQT. Yeah. And so we had to completely switch the model. And the ones that were presented to me were Ultra Boost, and then a couple other ZXs. And when Tomas drew it up, this was the one that he drew up. So it's had the burlap all the way through. Yeah. And the vamp was, people call it toe box, but the vamp was like, darker. And then they had done this outsole. And they were like, oh, we should maybe switch it so that it's not like it doesn't have Adidas and all that stuff. And I was like, man, you better put your name next to mine. So like, 100%. This is not a custom. Like, people need to know that this is real. Yeah. But we ended up doing 150 pair. But yeah, like, just, when you see the two shoes like side by side, like it's crazy to be able to say like, there was a lot of detail.
And I was going to ask you if you could, for anyone from Reebok who's going to be listening to this, if you could do any silhouette, what silhouette are you doing a collaboration on?
Is that a real?
Look, I'm asking. It's a real question. You got to answer it. You got to put it on the record. You got to manifest it.
The real answer is the question, because the question is the answer.
There we go.
This is when I saw this shoe, I was like, everybody was like, this is Ian as a piece of footwear. It's like that coffee colorway, gum bottom. They ain't put no reflective on there, but the leather is nice. And, you know, to stay true to my coffee ways, you know, I had to dip a pair.
Oh, shit.
So this is my dipped pair. They still smell like coffee. I actually haven't even worn them yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like this is me as a shoe. But
I love it.
Reebok, listen, call your boy.
Yes.
Call your boy. This needs to be mine.
Dude, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat. Tell your story about yourself, the business, what you've done, what you built. It's amazing. I look forward to being in Portland. I'll be back in October for something I cannot speak on right now because I don't know when this podcast is going to go live, but 1 + 1 = 2. You'll figure it out. I'm definitely going to step foot in both stores, have some coffee, and support now that I'm a coffee sneaker nerd as well. So where can the people find you on the internets?
So you can find us, Instagram at Deadstock Coffee, also at Concourse Coffee, deadstockcoffee.com. Your boy don't be on Twitter. We kind of got a TikTok. It's about to pop back up. But for the most part, you can just come into the shop. I'm gonna be there.
Dope. I look forward to meeting you in person later this year. And thanks for jumping on the pod with us.
For sure.